there, Simon from simonwoods.com. Now, April the 17th is International Malbec Day. Not quite sure who designated it International Malbec Day, but I think 2013 is the third year that it has been being celebrated. So in celebration, I have got 8 Malbecs in front of me, 7 of them from Argentina, but I'm kicking off with one from Cahors, Chateau de Chambert Malbec. Actually, they don't make all that much of a play of the word Cahors on the label. Are they a bit embarrassed about it? Should they be? Let's have a taste and see. Well, it's got some of the violet scented plum and dark Loganberry rather than blackberry flavours that I want in Malbec. Also, it's got a sense of earthiness. And this is one of the oldest wines here. I think this is, I'm doing them in roughly alcohol order. So the reason I put that first, yeah, it is one of the oldest, but it's the lowest alcohol. It's still 13.5%. But I'm getting this quite mature, juicy, lithe fruit and a little bit of smokiness. It says on the back label it's had a year in barrique. It smells like it's probably new barrel, but it doesn't smell like it's going to be overwooded by any means. Juicy, plummy, a bit chocolatey, and yes, this framework of tannin from oak and also tannin from the grapes in the first place. Compared with the Cahors that was being made 20 years ago, it's a much more refined, silky wine. Than it's still got a bit of grunt and rustic grip about it, but it's good rustic rather than bucolic rusticity. I like that. Nice start. Let's see how we get on with Argentina. Let's get on to the ant hill mob. Altos las Hormigas. Hormigas means ants. Malbec Clásico 2012 from Mendoza, weighing in at 14%. It's 4.5 years younger than the previous one. And still, it's interesting. It's got that really fresh, crunchy fruit. Black currants here, maybe rather than the plummy edge of the first one. But it's still got the fragrance, and it's still got a little touch of earthiness. And I look at the colour of it, and it feels like they've tried to make a red wine rather than a black wine, which I always like to see. Bit of toastiness. I'm not sure whether it's been in a barrel. Maybe it has, because I'm just getting a little touch of toastiness that could be oak. But it's this joyous fruit that's the main event, and keeps you coming back, keeps you going. I quite like that. Fascinating contrast between those two. 4.5 years difference, but both yummy. Let's see whether Pablo y Walter Malbec is yummy. I'm not sure. I think this is a wine that's been bottled over here on the behest of a UK importer. Why have I got it after the first one? Well, I think it's a half a degree higher in alcohol or something like that. So we go from 14 to 14.5% here. Now this also smells juicy, young and vigorous. Maybe not as fine-boned and fragrant as the previous one. Doesn't feel like, again, doesn't feel like they've gone over the top. And again, they've made red wine rather than deep, dark, manly but overbearing wine. It smells like it's going to be ever so slightly on the jammy side, but not too jammy. Let's see. Good, but a step down. Yes, as I was suspecting, it's just this rounder, plusher fruit, but hasn't got that spiky, lively fragrance that the Altos Las Hormigas has got. So quite nice wine, but not as nice as the previous one. Let's move on to La Flor from Polenta Wines. Bodega La Flor Polenta. I think it's called Bodega Polenta, and this is their wine called La Flor. It's a bit confusing from the label. Anyway, just let's dig in and see where we get to. Blackberry jam, again, the fragrant edge, and there's a juiciness here. It feels like it's maybe not as crisp, if that's the right word to use for the Altos Las Hormigas. Feels like it's going to be a bit fleshier, 0.5% more alcohol, so should be a bit fleshier. But it feels like the fruit here is a bit fresher than in Pablo y Walter. Almost reminds me of Côte de Rhône now. Good Côte de Rhône with its slightly stalky, spicy characters, this bold plum and berry fruit, and yeah, this earthy finish. Really nice wine, and really nice contrast between that and Altos Las Hormigas. It's both on that young, crunchy side. This one maybe has got a little bit more gloss on it. The other one maybe a little bit more freshness. So Horses for courses. I like them both, I think, as much as each other. We'll move on to a slightly older wine, only a year older. This is Punto Final 2011 from Bodega Renacer. Touches of vanilla and spice here, and so they're really quite exotic, almost sandalwood-like. There's the berry fruit. It's a year older than the previous three, so the fruit's not quite as juicy and perky, but it still feels like it's got some freshness there. And again, it doesn't look like they've gone over the top in terms of trying to make a wine to impress rather than one that will actually end up being drunk. And it's okay. That fragrant sandalwood edge, rather than the violet that I was getting in some of the best of the previous one, that persists, and then there's a touch of vanilla, a bit of toffee there. Fruit-wise, it's lost a little bit of the freshness that was still in the 2012s. I like it, but I think if I'd had it without having the previous, well, certainly some of the previous ones, I would probably be enjoying it more. As it is, it's okay, no complaints, but feels like a bit of a step down, and certainly it's a step down in bottle height. So let's see whether, as we go up again in bottle height, whether we restore normality and quality. For we are on Column A, 2010 Estate Malbec. Now, I think the other 6 of the Argentinians are from Mendoza. This is from Salta, which is 2 provinces further north, but this is a particular place called the Valcalchaquí, which is one of the highest vineyards in the world. There's these guys, and there's some people who, well, the owner's a guy called Donald Hess. He bought it off the Davalos brothers, and thinking he was buying the highest vineyards in the world, and then apparently one of the Davaloses said, actually, we've got one that's just a little bit higher. So I think Column A then planted one a little bit higher, and so I don't know who's got the highest vineyard in the world at the moment. I'm sure I remember, hasn't someone in Bolivia got some high vineyards as well? Anyway, I better shut up and taste the wine. Slightly rustic feel here. I don't know whether it's a wood thing or an ever so slight cork thing, but there is just a slight earthy dankness here. I got earthiness in some of the other ones, but here I'm just wondering whether it's a barrel or a cork thing. But the fruit also feels plusher, and yeah, it feels like it's got ripe. It feels like it's had a bit more heat on it. So there's a rounder, fuller, broader both of shoulder and of waistline here. Smells interesting, but I don't know whether I'm going to prefer some of the younger, fresher ones. Let's see. Big, full, earthy wine, and I think the earthiness is that I'm getting. It's the wine, not the bottle. I think the bottle's actually quite smart. It is a fuller, fleshier style than the wines that have gone before, and yeah, you can taste the warmth, you can taste the intensity, it's quite a nice warm spring day here, and the temperature. People think, oh yeah, as red wines get bigger and bigger, serve them warmer and warmer. I'd almost say the opposite for some of the more robust New World wines. I find that at higher temperatures, you're getting a lot of the heat really comes through, and if there's any hint of jamminess in the wine, then that comes through more strongly. Maybe even quarter of an hour in the fridge, and something like that would be, yeah, it's certainly looking fresher. Not that it's not looking fresh now, but I think it would be of benefit to a wine like that. Yeah, decant it and put it in the fridge, if that makes sense. So I like it at the moment. I think that, I don't know, the good 2012s, I think of them as almost like slightly, not outdoorsy type of wines, but good juicy gluggers. Here it feels like there's a little bit more earthiness and complexity. Sometimes you want the freshness, sometimes you want something that's a little bit more sit back and contemplate. So I might sit back and contemplate that later after having glugged some of the others. Wine number 7. I think this is the highest alcohol, 15.5% for Familia Bianchi Malbec, and we're in Mendoza, back in Mendoza here, but towards the south of Mendoza. So let's give it a whirl. And this is a big, rich, juicy, Again, those plums, berries, the damsons, that little edge of damson skin as well. It's maybe I can't fault it for its intensity, certainly from the aromas. Maybe I miss a few more of the grace notes. Well, that's not a shy fawn of a wine, and it's big, rich, rounded, chocolatey. It's got this juicy, plummy berry and this licorice. All those things for me point maybe to somewhere that is just a little bit too warm, or maybe they picked everything that little bit too late. I get what I call the skinniness, so I get damson skins, black currant skins, almost a sign that the grapes started to shrivel up on the vine, losing a bit of freshness, so I miss a little bit of the violets, the earthiness that was in some of the younger, fresher wines, and it's a style that I know lots of people love. So I'm not going to I'm not going to be too heavy-handed with the criticism, but it's not a style of wine that I want to particularly encourage, and I almost think about how much of that could I drink. I think I'd struggle to do half a glass. And I was talking about the Colomé and saying of that as a wine I'd serve on the cool side. I'd almost serve that even a little bit cooler, maybe half an hour in the fridge. Of course, it's going to warm up, and as it warms up, well, at the cool temperatures, maybe you will get some of that freshness coming through. But as it warms up, then those plummy notes will come through. And I suppose when the licorice and the volatile alcoholic bits start coming through, that's a sign that maybe you need to stick it back in the fridge. Hey, final wine, Trapiche. So this is Trapiche 2008 and Vigna Federico Filani. Each year since, I don't know, 2003, something like that. Trapiche. Trapiche gets bigger. It's part of Peñaflor, Argentina's largest wine company, and each year they get grapes from loads and loads of growers. And to encourage them, they started picking 3 of the best and doing a single vineyard bottling of their wines. This is one of them. And it's funny, it's 2 years older than the previous one, but it almost seems to have a bit more fruit freshness about it. And it has got some of the violets, berries, and some of the earthiness. But there's also this. I was talking about iron-rich character. I can't remember which one of the ones it was in earlier. But there's a real sense of earthiness from the soil coming through in here. So it smells good. Taste it. And really good it is too, so it's proud and plummy, but it's got this backbone that is keeping it all from going too wobbly. So there's the earthy minerality, and there's that fragrance too, and there's a freshness. And despite the 15% alcohol, if I have an ever so slight carp, I get just a little touch of Brettanomyces, maybe drying the finish out a touch, but it is really a minor carp. I've enjoyed these. I've enjoyed some of them more than others, and I found that there were some that were maybe winter wines. I would say that the higher alcohol ones that they send are more the winter wines. The ones, the younger, these 2012, I'd be digging into those with barbecues and stuff like that, and or asados if you want to get into true Argentinian mode. But the main thing is that when April the 17th comes, because I have to confess as I film this, it is not April the 17th, as long as you're drinking some Malbec and having it with some appropriate, hearty, but... Hi there, Simon from simonwoods.com. Argentina today, 5 Argentinian wines, 2 Bonadas, and then 3 Malbecs. Let's just dig in, see where we get to. First one is Mairena Bonada 2010. All of these say Mendoza on, and some of them are a bit more specific as to which part of Mendoza they're from. So when we get to those, I will tell you. Sweet, rich berry. There's a slight chocolatey note as well from, I think it's from oak, that's coming through, and sometimes Bonada can be a bit savoury and herby. I don't get too much of that character coming through here, but it smells like it's going to be a nice fleshy wine. And there is a bit of freshness there, a little bit of bite, black currant, blackberries, some savoury notes. It's the lowest alcohol of these, that's 13%. I think they go up to about 14.5%. But if I have a problem with it, it's what I call that slightly clunky oak. It feels like they've chocolate wafer biscuit oak. Feels like I would have much preferred it if they'd put it in older oak for a bit longer to round it out, because the fruit's still quite boisterous and juicy and friendly and vigorous, but yeah, maybe just a bit too juvenile. Nice, but and it may just be that it needs a little bit of time in bottle to calm down. But maybe they could have done that in the cellar, and hey, but I do like it. Next one, a year older, Trapiche's Brochel Bonarda 2009, and again, no specification beyond Mendoza as to its origins. And now this is a little bit more earthy and savoury. If the first one is New World, this is more Old World. I mean, Trapiche is one of the long-established producers. Part of the Peñaflor group, and tracing its history back quite a few generations. And it feels, yeah, there are some wineries that where they're still less than 5 vintages under their belt. To be honest, I mean the other 4 wines in this range, I think I've heard of Quieto before, but the others are all new to me. Here there is a bit more relaxed character to the wine, and rather than the boisterous hold me back that was there in the first one. Smells good, but smells different. And here the oak is making its presence felt in a slightly different way. Rioja Bonarda, if you want to call it that way. There's more of a sweet vanilla character. Here it was that chocolate wafer biscuit. Here it's the sweet vanilla. I think in both instances, I would have liked a little bit less of the oak influence and more larger, older barrels, so you get the softening effect without the impact of the flavour. Here, it's higher in alcohol. I think this is 14 compared with 13 on the first one, but both of them have got a nice bright freshness about them. And I mean, if you're looking at Argentina, don't just stop on Malbec. Bonarda is a grape that really deserves exploration. Both of those two, I very happily polish off a second glass and maybe even a third. Let's see whether I can say the same for the Malbecs. So we have got a 2011 and 2 2010s. The 2011 is Perpetuum Premium Malbec 2011 from the Jimenez Ruiz family, and origin here 60% Uco Valley, 40% Maipú. Not to be confused with Maipú in Chile. Well, there's almost a minty character here, slightly bandagey. I'm just wondering whether it's ever so slightly Brettian. But then the fruit, it's got almost like a Coca-Cola character. Bright red berries, a dark fruit as well. And it smells quite fresh. It's young. It doesn't feel like it's over-ripened or over-oaked or anything like that. But let's taste it. Yeah, that minty, savoury, herby character is there. Maybe a little bit too prominent for me. I'll be interested to see how this ages, what happens over the next few hours as it opens up in the bottle. For me at the moment, I would almost like a little bit more of the Malbec violet freshness. It's not a heavy wine by any means, but I don't get much of that the Malbec purity that you get in the best examples. It's okay. I'm going to move on. Next one, wine number 4, is Hacienda del Plato Zagal Malbec, and again, apart from it being Mendoza. Now, it's not quite as intense in colour as the previous ones. It feels, and it smells as if it's not trying to be anything too big or not trying to impress you. But in the process of not trying to impress, it comes across as being quite light, fresh, and juicily gluggable. So there's a slightly medicinal hint to this plummy, dark berry fruit, but it smells like you want to have a swig of it. Well, I quite like that. It's not as ambitious a wine, I don't think, as the one before. I'm not sure of the price of the comparative price, but the slightly smaller bottle should have probably led me to believe that it wasn't going to be trying to impress you maybe as much as the one before. But in trying not to impress. It actually comes across as quite a nice, juicy, friendly wine. There is some licorice there. There's some giving, so it feels like there's some warmth and richness and alcohol bite about it. 14% on the first one, 14.5% here. But certainly not a wine that I'd want to keep for any length of time, but it does its job pretty well, and yeah, I actually prefer it to the one before. Let's see how I get on with the final one, which is 2010 origin Mendoza, from 3 distinct Mendoza terroirs. They bring us complexity, delicacy and delight, but they don't tell you what they are. Let's have a go. Deeper in colour, deeper in aroma, but there's still some freshness about that aroma. There's the plums, the berries, a little bit of the black currant, maybe even something a little bit more exotic, maybe even something a little like passion fruit in there. Slightly some of the floral character that maybe I've missed in the previous 2. Yeah, it smells like it's going to be concentrated but not trying too hard. And that floral, spicy character carried on into the wine. It's like there's this middle bit of berries and plums, and lacing through it are things like the floral notes, the spicy notes. There is again that licorice note of heat. 14.5% alcohol, not a shy fawn of a wine, but yes, it's not over the top. It's not one of those sweet, ripe, almost porty styles that some people seem to think what wine should taste like. It's this is a wine that you could actually drink, providing you had a large piece of bife de chorizo, as they like it in Argentina. Probably my favourite of the lineup. Although Argentina, I have a love-hate relationship with Argentina. I almost like the wines from 10 years ago more than I like some of them now. They seem to have gone a bit too bloated, and I think they've stopped probably about 3 years ago doing the really bloated styles, but their legacy lingers on, and there are still wines that get fabulous scores from certain critics that you taste them and you think this is like drinking soup. Here I want freshness, I want bite in a wine, and I want some acidity, and I want a live fruit rather than something that's gone raisiny. And the best ones of these give it, and I think I'm going to go and try and find a steak or two to polish off with that. And I think I'll see you soon.